Hello, my lovely Natsukis. It's your bestie Summer, and this is my second time recording this because something went wrong the first time, and I recorded the entire thing, and then I realized it wasn't recording the entire time. Luckily, I didn't record any of the fic parts, just the intro. So yeah, that's fun. Let's hope that doesn't happen again. I'm actually here at a sleepover with two of my besties, and all of the munchin and crunchin is the tiny dog right next to me named Beeps. She's amazing. But yeah, my two friends are out there right now. One of them's, I think, in the bathroom, and the other one's in a shower, so fun. One of them dyed their hair, so we love that for her. And we had a lot of fun today. We walked around, we went to a thrift store, we went to a Family Dollar and got monsters, we went to the park, we walked around for a bit. It was really hot, but it was really fun. And then we went home at around 7, I think. And then we dyed one of our friends' hairs, which she's washing it out right now. And one of my other friends was here yesterday. We had a lot of fun then too. We went to the front one. Yeah, you can come in. I'm recording the intro. She's in the bathroom. I'm recording the intro to my channel. So if you that's the friend that is dyeing her hair. So she's gonna be. Oh, it's fine. We do that all the time. So she's gonna be here in the background while I record. Oh, and here comes the other friend. I had to restart this because it messed up and stopped recording. But that should be everything. So. Oh yeah, don't say names or anything, cause channel. But no, it's fine. It didn't really catch on the thing, I think. But anyways, this is part 10, chapter 5 of Press Hard to Subscribe, a DPXDC podfic written by die_oilcollagen 6083 and read by Summer Audio. Enjoy! Damian furiously opened his window and began to scale the side of the manor until he reached the roof. Making his way along the slats until he reached the peak, Damian looked around him, taking a deep breath of the chilling air. He could do this. Danny was likely still awake. He needed to clear this up now. Starting voice call. Closing his eyes, Damian tried to keep calm and not let his nerves overwhelm him. It rang once, twice, 3 times, and finally a 4th. There was no 5th. "Damie?" Denny said through the speaker, his voice sounding so hesitant, so unsure, guarded. Damian closed his eyes again. That wasn't how he ever wanted Danny to sound. "Hello, Danny. My deepest apologies. It never occurred to me that he would do that he would fake an emergency and send me away with the sole purpose of meeting you. I cannot convey the depth of my sorrow that he did that." Damian's voice began to break, his emotional pain at his words leaking through. I will understand if you no longer wish to see me. I am well aware this was a betrayal of your trust. Albeit unintentional, it still happened. Neither of them spoke for a moment. "I don't know what to do, Damie. I really care for you, and I still really want to go on that date with you, but I can't trust you with things right now." Danny took a shaky breath. "And that hurts, Damie. It hurts that I can't trust you, and I can't help but be worried about what I've already trusted you with." Damian sat down heavily on the roof, his heart aching. Dating civilians had never gone well for anyone in his family. If his love with Danny was going to end in his heart shattering, he might as well just do it now, instead of prolonging the inevitable. "I will do my utmost to take everything you have told me to the grave. However, I frequent the company of Batman and his associates. They are often able to deduce many things without someone even saying a word. I cannot guarantee that something will not unintentionally be revealed." Father had already potentially exposed them. If Father had any complaint about what he was telling Danny, Father could look into the mirror first. To be frank, Danny, if you date me, you will likely be visited by a whole host of vigilantes and heroes. It, unfortunately, comes with the territory after quite a few of them have watched you grow up. Huh. Damian's brow furrowed. That wasn't the reaction he was expecting. I think I can handle it. It honestly might be kinda cool. Danny sniffled. Listen, I'm still mad and upset, but I feel a bit better knowing you didn't mean to, and that, well, Batman basically sussed it out of you. He is the world's greatest detective. Weird question. Did you confront Batman? Danny asked. Damian blinked. Of course. I yelled at him, as well as Nightwing, as he was the one who distracted me. Red Robin is also on my list, as he said nothing when Batman decided to visit you and sent him to visit Tucker. He replied darkly. He still had to hunt Timothy down and yell at him. Danny giggled. No, I'm still mad at you, but it's kind of sweet that you'd yell at Batman and some of the others for me. Hope flared within Damian's chest. Maybe he wouldn't get his heart crushed. Will I still see you tomorrow? Damian asked hesitantly. Yes, I think so. But I think we need to lay out a couple things that might come up if we're going to actually try dating. Danny sounded strong, confident. It reassured Damian that Danny was sure in his answer. Yes, I agree. We have not yet discussed the fame and scrutiny that will come your way from openly dating me. Not only that, but what we should do when it comes out that you are Undead Nebula. If you associate with me, I am reluctant to admit that will likely come to light. The press can be rather vicious. Danny sighed deeply at Damian's words. Yeah, they can be. I'm sure they're gonna have a field day with my school record and my parents. Damn it, I wanted our date to be fun, not full of depressing topics. I can always come early, so we may discuss these topics before we depart. That way you can decide if it's worth it, if I'm worth it. Damian whispered, his throat tight. Please don't talk about yourself like that, Damie. Of course you're worth it. Danny whispered. Be nice to my friend. He's really cool and a sweet person. Can make me blush like no other. Damian couldn't help but let out a weak laugh at that. Danny, if we decide to not do anything, decide not to try and be romantically involved, can we still be friends? Of course, Damian, Danny replied warmly. Batman and company aren't gonna scare me away from being your friend. Good. I'm glad, Damian said, feeling himself slightly relax. It's getting pretty late. I'll see you tomorrow, Damie. Why don't you come over an hour early to my place? Do you need the address? No, I may have memorized that, Damian admitted. Danny just laughed. The bats rub off a bit on you growing up, he teased. Something like that, Damian replied. Good night, Damian. Good night, beloved. At his words, Danny gave a slight gasp before the call hung up. Resting his head against his knees, Damian allowed himself a moment of happiness and joy that Danny was still willing to go on their date tomorrow, that he hadn't just outright rejected Damian. Their status as friends were still secure, but their status as potential lovers, as paramours, unknown. For now, though, he would take a moment to breathe, to look up at the stars Danny loved. He was brought out of his thoughts by a rush of texts. Undead Nebula. Damie. Undead Nebula. Damie. Undead Nebula. Has Robin seen my rant of him? Undead Nebula. Oh, ancients. Undead Nebula. I dressed up as him and told the world how cool I thought he was. Undead Nebula. Damie, does he hate me? Red_ghoul. No, beloved. He does not hate you. Yes, he has seen the video. Multiple times. Undead Nebula. Keyboard smash. Undead Nebula. Keyboard smash. Undead Nebula. Oh fuck. Undead Nebula. I'm dead. Undead Nebula. I'm dead. Undead Nebula. Make sure they put it on my gravestone, Damie. Undead Nebula. Here lies Danny Fenton, who died from embarrassment. Damian smiled once more and chuckled. Danny paced in the hallway, dressed for the upcoming date. Damian would be here soon. He had made some sandwiches, all vegetarian. They could hopefully eat and have their difficult conversation. They'd both been pretty good at talking and working out issues that there gave Danny a lot of hope that they could work out, then still go on their date. After sleeping and thinking it over, he was calmer and he understood a bit more. He remembered how crazy he had gone over Sam wanting to date Gregor, aka Elliot, for Batman to come visit him when he was potentially going to be dating Damian, someone Batman had more than likely watched grow up, and who was probably Damian's godfather or something. It made sense why the intimidating vigilante had visited him. Or maybe Batman was his uncle? No one really knew who Damian's mother was. Maybe she was Batman's sister or something. Ancients, was Batman an older sibling or a younger sibling? Based on how he acted, Danny guessed Batman was an older brother. Visiting Danny without threatening him was probably Batman being nice, considering what Danny knew about the masked member of the Justice League. To be honest, he'd mostly forgiven Damian already, especially with how upset the other man had been last night. He'd never heard Damian cry, but last night seemed to have been the closest Damian had come to crying around him. He supposed it was Jazz rubbing off on him, but it wasn't really healthy for Damian to keep up all of his emotions locked up like that. Theoretically, romantic partners helped make each other feel better, or at least it was what everyone told him. By everyone, he meant TV and movies. Not that the relationships portrayed in those medias were generally healthy. He could probably count on his hand the number of couples that had actually healthy relationships in the media on his hand. Danny was certain he could make a reasonable list if he had some time. Time, though, was not something he had, as the doorbell rang. Startled out of his thoughts, Danny raced to the door, peeking through the eye-hole. Yep, that was Damian. He looked as gorgeous as ever, in a green button-down shirt, black slacks, and the same time black pea coat that he had worn last time. His hair was gelled slightly, pulling it back, but allowing a few sections to curl down and lay on Damian's forehead. Damn, he really wanted to open the door and just pull Damian into a kiss. Stay strong, Danny, he reminded himself. He'd have to be satisfied with a hug. Throwing open the door, Danny stepped out and embraced the man in front of him. He knew Damian was surprised based on how long it took him to hug Danny back, but that was okay. Beloved, it is good to see you, Damian whispered, his voice tight. Yeah, Damian was bottling stuff up. Have you had lunch? Danny asked, pulling back. I made some sandwiches. They're all vegetarian. No, I did not. I was unsure what you had planned for our date. I assumed I should arrive somewhat hungry. I brought along a protein bar just in case. Damian rambled a little nervously. Be still, my heart, Danny thought. Be strong. I know he's adorable, but be strong. We have our big discussion that we can make out, probably. Come on in. You can meet my sister. She has to leave soon for her internship, but you can meet each other. And, of course, you can meet the ruler of our little townhouse, Orion. Feeling bold, Danny grabbed Damian's hand and pulled him inside. It was debatable if it was a platonic or romantic gesture, but hey, they weren't sure where they stood relationship-wise. Danny led Damian to the kitchen, then indicated to the wooden table. Letting go of Damian's hand, he pulled the sandwiches he made earlier from the fridge, removing the beeswax and cloth cover he placed on it a while ago. He wouldn't hear the end of it from Sam if they bought saran wrap. He was fine with it as long as Sam footed the bill for imposing some of her more stringent ecological and green values on Danny and Jazz. They sat down at the small, square wooden table, sitting next to each other instead of across. That was a good sign, right? Body language? Their bodies were angled towards each other. They were mirroring. Okay, Danny, Jazz had rubbed off on you way too much. There was no need to attempt to psychoanalyze his soon-to-be boyfriend. Here, I hope you like them, Danny stated, pushing the plate towards the center of the table. He'd tried at least to make them a little fancy. He wanted to impress Damian a little, although he wasn't sure the other man ate fancy food all the time. Thank you, Damian replied, grabbing one of the spinach sandwiches. Where do you want to begin? I suppose, do you still want to go out with me? Do you still want to even try to be boyfriends? Danny asked, unsurely. He did, but he wanted to hear it straight up, from Damian himself. I do. I desire for us to be romantically involved very much. For us to be boyfriends. Is that something you still want? Damian's voice and the slight frigid on his hand gave away his nerves. It is. I do want to make this work. That's why I want us to have this conversation, for us to lay it out. I'm not saying we should spill all our deepest secrets or anything, just discuss what could be some potential obstacles, 'cause I know both of us have complications. For me, it's my parents and my probably high school record. We kind of discussed it a bit last night, but for you, it's your fame, your connections to certain people. Is there anything else? Danny asked. There was a slight bit of hesitation from Damian before he replied. This is rather minor, but I must admit that I am a rather possessive person. I would never attempt at any point to be open to a polyamorous relationship. Danny blinked, surprised. Not what he was expecting, but good to know. All right, thanks for telling me. I don't know if I ever would be interested in a poly relationship, but I'm totally fine with ours being a purely monogamous one, Danny said. Damian relaxed slightly. Damian was emoting a lot more than usual. He seemed more raw and vulnerable than Danny was used to. Had Damian been afraid of losing Danny? It made him wonder how many other friends or partners had been scared away by the bats and Damian's fame, and the scrutiny it brought. He felt sorry for Damian. It must have been really isolating and lonely. He also wondered how many had tried to cling to Damian in hopes that they could gain access to his family's riches. Their attention turned to the stairs as Jazz came down. Hey, Danny. You must be Damian. Nice to meet you. Jazz greeted them with a smile, approaching and holding out her hand. Damian stood and shook it firmly. Looking Damian over approvingly, Jazz snagged a sandwich. Hey! Danny protested. Jazz ignored him, ruffling his hair. Oh, you have extra. You won't miss one, she said, opening the fridge, pulling out her water bottle and her lunchbox, juggling them with the sandwich. Will you be home when I get back? She asked conversationally. I don't think so, Danny replied, glancing quickly at Damian before looking back at his sister. All right, nice to meet you, Damian. Bye, little brother. Make sure you lock the door when you leave, Jazz said, heading for the front door. Danny huffed, annoyed. It was one time, Jazz. You don't need to remind me, he called after her. Danny turned back to Damian. You are close with your sister. She seems nice, Damian stated. Danny laughed. Damian wasn't the best at small talk, was he? Yeah, I am. She's pretty great, he responded with a grin. So you wanted to talk about the press and stuff? Indeed. Damian set down his sandwich and sat up straighter, his body and attention focused solely on Danny. I am concerned that without controlling the narrative as best we can, the press will be rather vicious towards you. I was informed recently that what we had at the beginning of our correspondence could be considered a sugaring relationship. Tabloids will disparage you, call you a gold digger, among other things. I do not want that. However, I am unsure of how we should say we met and got close to one another. Well, we tell an abridged version of the truth, Danny suggested. That's usually the easiest way to ensure our stories match. We met on a Discord server, you helped me get a cat, we kept talking and sharing pet pictures, found out we were in the same city, then met up at the museum. Simple. Damian wished it would be that easy. He could not quell his nerves in regards to the matter. But, did you really just find out that we had basically a sugar daddy and sugar baby relationship for a bit? Danny asked, tilting his head slightly. Oh, how Damian wished he hadn't caught that. But he would not have fallen for his beloved if he was not sharp and intelligent. You are correct. Timothy was rather amused and horrified as well upon finding out. He prepared a PowerPoint presentation for me and questioned some of my other interactions online, Damian admitted, feeling his cheeks burn. Danny began to laugh joyfully. Damian looked away slightly, embarrassed. Ancients, you're so cute. He heard Danny move, then felt a slight pressure and wetness against his cheek. Damian's eyes widened, looked at Danny incredulously, unconsciously reaching up to touch his cheek. Danny merely looked back at him with a smug smirk. Heat coursed through Damian. If this conversation wasn't so necessary, he would tackle Danny to the floor, protecting the back of his heart's head, so as to not injure him. Then pepper him with kisses, or he would demonstrate his strength by picking Danny up, cradling his love in his arms. There were so many different things he could do. Such thoughts were distracting and unproductive. Clearing his throat, Damian attempted to get their conversation back on track. I agree that sticking as close to the truth as possible is the best course of action. However, we should account for the potential possibility that it is discovered that you are Undead Nebula, and from there it is an easy leap to our relationship being potentially a financial one, and not one of mutual care and respect. Danny sighed. Yeah, if that gets out, then it's gonna be rough. But, I hate to say this shit. This is a last resort type of thing that we only use if things start to get bad. I'm, pretty sure I'm technically the heir to Vlad Co., because Vlad Masters is my godfather, unfortunately, and he is a fucking creep. He's stupid rich, though. Not as rich as the Waynes, but nothing to sneeze at. He's very stalkery and obsessed with me, making me learn from him. Last I heard, he got a cat, so hopefully that's mellowed him out a bit. Danny trolled off, lost in thought. Damian was stunned. He knew that there was a connection between Masters and the Fentons. The money trail had made it clear that the man was funding their scientific research. If what they did could truly be called research, it was a mockery to the scientific method. He would need to look further into Masters. He was already on the Bat's radar due to how shady his dealings were. It was strange how many seemed to bow to Masters' whim. As far as they could tell, it was not done through magic. Damian was certain they had a file on the man. He would need to refresh his memory on the finer details. Cats are rather calming. It has been proven that the frequency of their purrs falls within the range that promotes healing of a physical nature. While we cannot be certain that the cat has given him mental healing, it is surely improved his physicality, Damian replied neutrally. I will heed your request. Your relationship with Masters will not be revealed until you give me the word. he promised. Danny reached out, laying his hand on top of Damian's. "Thank you, honey," Danny whispered, before his voice turned cheery. "Should we adjust the bat in the room?" Damian resisted the urge to groan. "Yes, now that you know somewhat. Not the exact details, of course. They're going to visit you. All of them, in their own ways. The majority of them should not show up on stream. I might also be able to give you some heads up. I apologize. They're all rather excited about the fact that I am dating someone. My siblings are just as bad. They will want to meet you as well, and Pennyworth will insist that you come over for dinner. Father as well." Part of me is super excited to potentially meet all these heroes. The other part of me is absolutely terrified. They're going to be judging me, scrutinizing me. I'm nothing special compared to them. Hell, they've been to space and have saved the world countless times. I know in my head that they're human too, but it's just they've done so much more than me. Like, what have I done with my life, Damie? Damian hated the defeated tone that crept into Danny's voice. It didn't sound right, coming from the normally happy man. "It is not right to compare yourself to them. You are a civilian, they are not," he said, attempting to reassure the other man, pulling his hand out from Danny's to rest it on his shoulder. "Civilian, right," Danny muttered. "About that. You know how I said there was a small-town hero in my hometown?" Danny waited till he got a small nod from Damian before continuing. "Well, I may have ended up helping him out. My parents had a ton of inventions that we could use, and if not, well, I could turn them into whatever we needed." Here, Danny gave a bitter laugh. "You know, we resented the Justice League and heroes a lot in Amity. It wasn't till I was older, till I ran away, that I realized there was something, I don't know what, that prevented all of Amity's weirdness from spilling out. It seems like it doesn't always work. Again, no idea what causes it, so no clue what the rules are for what can and can't come out." Damian sighed, letting his hands fall from Danny's shoulder. "Batman will want to speak with you about that and investigate." I lived through him visiting me once. I can handle it happening again." "Oh, I kinda had to reveal to Batman that I had some powers, so they know about that now, unfortunately," Danny said, grimacing. Damian's mind whirled. Things Danny had said dropped into place. Getting into a lot of trouble as a teen, his insights into what it was like as a hero, his abilities, his admittance that he'd helped out said hero, what Danny had said in his original video, that one that had started it all, about not getting sleep, about having the public turn against you. Had he been so passionate because that was what he had experienced too? Was Danny an ex-hero? It would explain a lot. It also meant that Danny might be more accepting of a relationship with a hero, a vigilante. "I am sorry that you had to reveal some of your secrets to him. He did not rebuke you, though, did he? Batman's stance on metas is more to do with how often they are mind-controlled and psychological attacks in Gotham, something which is dangerous in the general population, but even more so when metas get controlled." Yeah, he was pretty cool about it. He asked if I had more, but didn't press too much." "Good." They sat in silence for a moment. "I do not think your high school record is going to be an issue. Both Jason and Timothy have GEDs. Jason, as he was declared dead and could not finish high school, and Timothy because he dropped out to be CEO a while ago," Damian explained. He did not think that it would be much of an issue. That's good, but I also got a lot of detentions and fights." Danny mentioned nervously. It will not be an issue. Despite my father doing his best to not have anything on my school records, I do have a history of fights and getting into trouble. Damian told him confidently. Okay, well, what about my parents? They're basically Midwestern mad scientists. You are not your parents. Neither am I. Neither are my siblings. We will encourage them to judge you for who you are and not what your parents are. Isn't that easier said than done? Danny asked, his head tilting slightly. Adorable. Indeed, however, repetition and a strong message should wear them down. I am well versed in how to prevent a journalist from getting down a particular line of questions. Damian bragged slightly. Danny smiled. Oh, how so, sweetheart? Danny scooted his chair closer, leaning into Damian's personal space. Not that he minded. It's rather simple. Usually offering them something else, or glaring and not answering, have worked well for me. Danny was so close. If he bridged the gap, they would be kissing. Had they survived their conversation, relationship intact? Did Damian have a boyfriend now? He stopped caring for a moment as Danny kissed him. I'm glad we talked, Damie, Danny whispered after pulling away. Let's eat, then we can head out on our date, if you're game. Danny had a shy, happy smile on his face. Damian would not be satisfied with just one kiss. Leaning forward to capture Danny's lips once more, his hand coming up to cradle his beloved's cheek. I assure you, I am still very interested in our date, beloved. They ate the sandwiches, their eyes locked on the other, the atmosphere changed with their desire to touch one another. Ancients. Danny was so tempted to ask Damian if they could just screw the date and cuddle on the couch. He just wanted to hold Damian and be held by him. They'd had their talk. It hadn't been bad at all, with both of them revealing a little more secrets they held close to their chest. Communication! They were apparently pretty decent at that, at least with each other. Although, with the date, they could hold hands. Also, hang out on the couch did not make for a fun or interesting first date. He was trying to impress Damian here. Maybe he could convince Damian to watch a movie with him afterwards? Was that weird, though, that he wanted Damian to stay, that he wanted to spend as much time as possible with Damian? Danny was brought out of his thoughts as Damian parked. The zoo. Damian loved animals. He would surely love this. Stepping out of the car, he turned to his date. Have you been here before? He asked, walking forward to meet Damian before they headed to the entrance. I have. I usually go a few times a year. Damian replied. Fuck. Damn it. He should have known that Damian came here often. He loved animals. This wasn't a great start. Okay, that was fine. Danny had never been here before. Maybe Damian would enjoy showing him around. Showing Danny his favorite animals and exhibits. Yeah, that's what they can do. That should hopefully make this a little better. Now that he thought about it, though, Damian had probably gone to the pier and the amusement park there, and he'd probably sampled a lot of the different vegetarian and vegan restaurants the city had to offer. Hopefully, it would be the thought that counted. Oh, awesome. I'm paying, by the way. I asked you out, so all of today is on me. Since you go here so often, do you want to show me your favorite exhibits? I'd love to see them, and knowing you can tell me all sorts of cool facts about them. Danny asked, giving their clasped hands a squeeze as they waited in line. It would be my absolute pleasure, beloved. Once they were inside, Damian led Danny to the big cat exhibits. Panthers, snow leopards, tigers, and lions. He should have known Damian liked big cats. Damian bought Danny a snow leopard plush, handing it to Danny, saying that it did not match his cuteness, but it was the closest that he could find among the plushies. Danny wasn't sure if he needed to thank or yell at whoever taught Damian to be so smooth. They also visited the wolf exhibit, some of the reptile exhibits, and with a flourish, Damian introduced him to his favorite herbivore, the okapi. It was a strange-looking creature. Its legs and butt were white and black, striped like a zebra. The rest of it was brown with small little horns on its head and a long purple tongue. "Do you know what its closest relative is?" Damian asked him with a smile. A zebra?" Damian chuckled. "No, despite how it looks, its closest relative is the giraffe. It is the only living relative of the giraffe and is often called the forest giraffe." "Huh. Why is it your favorite?" he asked, curious. It's a rather secretive and elusive animal. Everyone assumes, based on how it looks, that it's related to the zebra. However, that is not the case. It is actually a relative of the giraffe. I suppose the easiest answer is that it is a strange and beautiful creature. Another is that I relate to it in some way. The predators that we saw earlier are very beautiful and dangerous. That has been something that has been expected of me. I suppose the softer side of me has always felt strange, as it was forced to hide, like the okapi. Okay. Danny had no idea how to respond to that. He also felt like he was missing some context here. A lot of context. Well, others have no problem showing their soft side of being giraffes. Mine is merely a shadow of what it could have been, a mere relative of the giraffe. What? So, you're an okapi, but you want to be a giraffe? Damian laughed, although it sounded rather hollow. In a sense, yes, but it is too late. My childhood is gone. I can never be one. He glanced over at Danny. My apologies, beloved. I doubt that made much sense. It was merely some metaphorical musing of my part, a rather poor and convoluted metaphor. Yeah, I didn't understand all of it, but the gist of it is that you feel like you have always been a strong predator, and you weren't ever allowed to let your softer side, aka your compassion and empathy, show. It had to hide, and you wish it could be free, and out in the open, like the giraffes, instead of it in the shadow of the forest, like the okapi. Damian blinked at him, then a wry smile spread across his face. Yes, that is a better, more succinct explanation. So, toxic masculinity? You had to be and act a certain way, or else? Damian gave a curt nod, his eyes returning to the okapi in the exhibit. But, Damian, you said it yourself, didn't you? The okapi is a strange and beautiful creature. You have no way of knowing if you actually would have been a giraffe without whatever or whoever forced you to hide the parts of yourself. For all you know, you could have been an okapi anyway, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's a beautiful and unique animal that's special in its own way. It remained silent between them for a moment. Danny started to sweat, wondering if he'd overstepped and said anything wrong. "Thank you, Danny. It is kind of you to say," Damian eventually replied. They visited a few more exhibits before leaving the zoo to head to the pier. The pier was fun. They rode the roller coaster, although, to be honest, it was nothing compared to being able to fly on your own. Damian hadn't seemed too impressed by it either. Danny even convinced Damian to ride the carousel with him. Danny riding a rabbit and Damian a seahorse. Damian had begrudgingly let Danny take pictures of him on the seahorse, and he'd taken some pictures of Danny on the bunny, muttering something. Danny only able to catch the words handsome and adorable. At the carnival games, the two competed to win ridiculous prizes for the other, Damian smugly winning Danny a knockoff Robin and Martian Manhunter, which, oh my god, they had one. It was really hard to find Martian Manhunter merch, even if the guy was one of the original members of the Justice League. Danny won Damian a large teddy bear with a bright red bow and a Gotham-themed picture frame. It was what Damian had wanted from the available prizes. Leaving the amusement park, they walked along the pier, hand in hand. They window shopped, merely chatting and looking at the variety of shops. Damian seemed a little distracted at this point, glancing behind them. Everything was fine once more after he went to the bathroom. It must have been his imagination. Damian must have just been looking for the restroom. Their reservations at Takatarian were coming up, so the couple walked 2 blocks to the restaurant. Thankfully, Damian hadn't been there before, nor had Danny. They shared a cauliflower ceviche as an appetizer before trying a variety of tacos. The majority of them were made from Tian or Guardian to replace the meat. There were a couple that were different, though, which they had tried. The barbacoa taco had chili braised jackfruit instead of meat. There were also a soy chorizo. They had a great time trying and sharing the different tacos. It didn't taste exactly like the real thing, but hey, it was close enough in Danny's opinion. He didn't mind it, if it made Damian happy. And it seemed like Damian was having a great time. Danny had planned a great date. It was almost over, though. Damian would be taking him back soon. Hopefully, Damian wouldn't want to leave yet, and they could watch a movie together. Damian didn't want the date to end. He didn't have patrol tonight, but he doubted he'd be able to sleep. He would be going over the date in his head, replaying it over and over. It had been an incredibly enjoyable evening, despite having to call and scold his family for following them on the pier. They'd been easy to ignore at the zoo and the amusement park. However, they'd been too close and had started being lax in their observations. They had deserved the scolding. While he had been to the zoo many, many times, he'd always enjoyed it when he could talk about his favorite animals. The discussion of the okapi and the giraffes had been unexpected. He had not planned on being so open. Well, open for him. Danny knew nothing about the League of Assassins, their training, the Lazarus Pits, or how Damian grew up with them. Danny had touched on something important, though. Damian had no way of knowing if his difficulty showing emotions was solely due to his upbringing. Father was rather repressed, and he had not been forced to be an emotionless as a child. Danny's emotional intelligence reminded him of Richard, in a way, although not as exuberant. Danny certainly did not press as much as his eldest brother did. The entire time he had spent with Danny had been wonderful and relaxing. It was incredibly flattering how the date had been carefully selected for Damian's taste. The amusement park, not as much, but he had greatly enjoyed competing and playing the carnival games with Danny. He'd also had the chance to show off his incredible aim and strength at the games, and he'd been surprised and pleased when Danny had won a few against him as well. Seeing Danny confident and smug smirk had flooded him with desire, barely resisting the urge to kiss that smirk off of his face. Damian parked the car, finding a spot around a block from Danny's rented town home. Checking the street, he stepped out, ensuring no cars were headed down the street, heading around to open the car door for his beloved. Danny looked exquisite, as always. The dark jeans hugged his legs and ass. He was wearing a pale lilac long-sleeved shirt with a NASA pin over the pocket on the left side over his heart. The look was softened by the gray and red robin jacket, which, based on the slightly frayed cuffs, was well loved. There was a small red and green and yellow bow, clearly robin-themed, in Danny's black hair, that helped keep his long bangs out of his face. The possessive part of him always preened when he saw Danny in his colors, and right now, stepping out of the car, wearing his merchandise and carrying everything Damian had purchased and won for him, he felt incredibly satisfied. Danny thanked him with a small, pleased smile. He would open every door for Danny if it earned him that smile. Danny walked up the steps to the town home, opening the door before turning back to Damian, his teeth biting his lip. I had a really great time, Damian. I hope you did too. Thanks for driving. Danny was clearly nervous about something. Damian doubted it could be in regards to the date. He thought it made it rather clear about how much he'd enjoyed it. I had a wonderful time as well, beloved. I would be honored if you would go out with me once more. However, this time I wish to plan and pay for everything, if you are amenable. Danny blinked in surprise, the worry in his body language disappearing. Oh, yeah, of course. I can't wait, Danny responded enthusiastically. Fantastic. I will message you and we can determine the specifics of our next date, Damian said with a smile. Hey, Damie, if you don't want to go yet, do you... Danny took a deep breath. The next few sentences were fast and rushed due to his nerves. Do you want to watch stuff with me on the couch? No pressure or anything, just relaxing, nothing else. Maybe some cuddling, because cuddles are nice, and I want to hold you or you hold me. I don't care which way. Oh, ancients, please shut me up. Damian felt his heart soar. Danny didn't want to end their time together. He stepped up to the next step, till he was pressing Danny somewhat against the door, enjoying that he was slightly taller than Danny. I would greatly enjoy that, Damian whispered, grabbing Danny's hand, bringing it up so he could kiss Danny's hand. I treasure every moment I spend with you, beloved. Having a chance to hold you in my arms, or to be in yours, sounds exquisite. Damian was rewarded with Danny's blush, which was quickly becoming one of his favorite things to see. Danny stuttered before ducking his hand and pulling Damian inside of their clasped hands. Jasmine was home, sitting at the kitchen table, a stack of papers and books next to her as she nibbled on the leftover sandwiches while reviewing some of the paperwork. The sandwiches were clearly the ones that Danny had made for lunch. She glanced up upon hearing the door open. Danny, how was the date? Is there going to be... Oh, hi, Damian. Good evening, Jasmine. Wonderful to see you once more. He greeted her politely. Her eyes sparkled with mirth, and he could tell that she would be teasing Danny mercilessly after he left later this evening. Good to see you, too. What are you two up to? Yes, there was that knowing, teasing tone that he'd heard from his older siblings many times. We were just gonna watch some stuff in the living room and cuddle, nothing else, Danny said with a pointed look to his older sister. Sounds nice. I didn't say you were gonna do anything else. Jasmine stood up, gathering her books and paper, a knowing grin on her face. I think I'll head upstairs and give you two some privacy. Danny insistently pulled him towards the living room, the blush from earlier still on his face. Sorry about that, Danny mumbled as he turned on the TV. Siblings, you know, she knows nothing is going to happen, but she just has to tease me. Oh, I am well aware of siblings and their teasing. I do have 5 of them, all of them older. He reminded his love, sitting down on the couch, glancing around. It was clear which of the bookshelves belonged to Danny and which one belonged to Jasmine. Danny's bookshelves had some modern rockets, the collection of Batburger toys he'd shown off on stream, a few picture frames, and other knickknacks. Jasmine's was filled with books, the top 3/4 filled with psychology books, and the bottom fourth filled with what seemed to be romance novels. Right. What do you want to watch? What have you been watching lately? He was honestly curious. He did not often watch television, mainly sticking to animal documentaries. Damian also tended to watch the news, although considering how often they covered crime and politics, which were not often pleasant topics, he did not wish to end their date on a gloomy note. Danny fidgeted, embarrassment radiating from him. Okay, this is gonna be really pathetic and sad, but I didn't really watch a lot of TV growing up, and I didn't watch a ton of movies either. Really, just the ones my friends wanted to, when I could spare the time. It was kind of the same with video games, too. I watched and played when they wanted to, because I generally didn't have time to find things that I wanted to watch, generally. Danny rubbed the back of his neck nervously, looking away from Damian. So, I've been watching cartoons, ones that were popular back when I was a kid, or, well, teen. I'm currently making my way through Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's really good. Danny trailed off, watching cartoons for children from his childhood, while Richard had forced him to watch Disney, Pixar, and some DreamWorks movies. They had not ever watched cartoons made for television. He supposed it was due to the time commitment. It was easier to find the time to watch a 2 or 3 hour movie compared to the 12 hours it took to watch most seasons. Assuming the episodes were approximately 30 minutes long and the seasons had 24 episodes, that also said nothing for however many seasons the show would have. I must admit that I've never watched television cartoons. I've been tempted to watch anime before, as I do read some manga in my spare time. Oh, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is on my list of things to watch. It's an anime, Danny offered. Damian had heard wonderful things about said anime. However, he knew there was some violence and corruption in it. Damian needed to be in the mood for that, as he dealt with many of those things in his vigilante life. He tended to prefer slice-of-life manga. Well, I would like to watch it someday. I prefer to watch the Avatar cartoon you mentioned. Okay, we can start over and see, so you can see from the beginning. It's a really good show so far, so I don't mind starting it over, especially since I'm still on season 1, Danny said, sitting down next to Damian, using the remote to bring up the aforementioned TV show and pressing play. The two watched the show in silence before Danny gently leaned over, leaning into Damian's shoulder. Taking a hint, Damian lifted said hand, laying it across Danny's shoulder, the so-called move that Richard had gleefully told him about. Danny responded positively to it, relaxing and leaning further into Damian's side. Between the first and second episode, Danny grabbed a blanket, draping it over both of them. Damian's heart fluttered, noticing it was the blanket he'd purchased for Danny at the observatory. While Damian did that, he sent a text to his family that he would be staying late. Although he was sure that they knew, having followed him and Danny during the entirety of their date, he knew it was their way of showing that they loved him and that they cared, no matter how infuriating it was. They were likely more anxious to confirm that it had gone well, due to father's interference in his relationship. He should have perhaps expected it, considering how late they both had been up the previous night. But around episode 4, Danny was asleep, moving as slowly as possible. Damian turned off the television. He could look his fill now. Danny was ethereal, with his long lashes, lips parted slightly, and his calm, relaxed face. Damian's fingers twitched. If only he had his sketchbook. He could immortalize this moment forever. Danny's weight against him felt right, and there was something about his love, his heart, his beloved, asleep, trusting Damian to watch over him and protect him. He doubted that was Danny's intention. No matter, it still felt that way. Damian had a decision to make, though. Did he wake Danny, say goodbye, and then leave? He could always leave on his own, using his skills to exit through the window, locking it behind him. However, that would likely cause questions to arise of how he had done so. Danny was intelligent and observant. That was part of what Damian enjoyed around him. Or did Damian allow himself to fall asleep here, on the couch? It would be selfish of him, greedy of him, as it would allow him to spend even more time with Danny, and would allow him to wake up with his beloved. He doubted Danny would question if Damian had also fallen asleep on the couch. His family would know, though. Damian found he did not care. He had started this day, unsure if he would still have a date with Danny. He had not, in his wildest dreams, thought he would end the day with Danny asleep, nestled in his side. Damian pulled out his phone once more, hesitating slightly before he took a picture of Danny asleep next to him. Then he texted his family. "Gay ghoul, do not wait up for me. I will likely not return till morning." Knowing that would cause a firestorm, he turned his phone on silent, then put it away. Relaxing, Damian settled in and used his training from the league, the one that allowed him to sleep almost anywhere, to drift off. He would be waking up the next morning with his beloved. Damian could hardly wait. End notes. Ha ha ha! Why do I do this to myself and make each chapter longer than the previous one? Everything in this chapter takes place over about 2 days, yet so much happens. This one took a bit longer, as I got to about 9.5k, then got stuck. Then I got some help, and bam, wrote the rest in about 2 days. So, one of my lovely friends in the BatFam server sent me a TikTok that someone had made about this fic, which is really flattering. It's still so wild for me that people love this fic enough to make fan art for it, make memes, and make TikToks. I appreciate it all. As is tradition with this fic now, here are some inspirational songs for this chapter. Elastic Heart, Sia, Ava Max, So Am I, Oh No, Maria and the Diamonds, I'll Be Good, James Young. Thank you, as always, to the wonderful Harthik for reading my fic and letting me know your thoughts. I always appreciate your input and your beta work. Thank you, Wolfie. Your excitement and encouragement means a lot and has helped keep me motivated to write this fic. I did also write some other Deadserious, Danny/Damian, if other people are interested. I'll provide some links below. Smiling emoji. Some are better than others, lol. Love is like how it is in fairy tales. This is basically fairy tale AU. Treasure of my dreams. Soulmate AU for DPXDC Ship Week. I think you're T-rific. Coffee Shop AU for DPXDC Week, featuring a lot of puns. To Build a Nest, Wing AU for DPXDC Ship Week. The Hand of Fate, Wait I Mean Time, Arranged Marriage AU for DPXDC Week. Blood and Knights, No Capes AU, and Enemies to Lovers AU for DPXDC Ship Week. If you're interested, come say hi to me on Tumblr. And that was part 10, chapter 5 of Press Hard to Subscribe, a DPXDC podfic written by die_Collagen6083 and read by Summer Audio. I had so much fun reading this. I Two things. Apologies for the vacuum and the dogs in the background. My mom was vacuuming and the dog started barking because I'm pretty sure my brother came in. And also apologies for me butchering those restaurant food names. I could not pronounce those. I still can't. I have no idea if I pronounced those correctly or not. Let me know in the comments, I guess, because I have no clue how to pronounce any of those. So yeah, fun, we love. No longer at a sleepover, by the way. This is like 3 days after the sleepover. I recorded the first half at the sleepover, but then I recorded the next half like today, the day this is being posted, aka 2 days after it was supposed to be posted, because I was I was fucking busy. I was so busy because the day after the sleepover, I went up to the mountains to hang out with my Nana and stuff for Mother's Day. And then during Mother's Day, it was supposed to be my last day of school, but I had to get an extension. And so I was doing school that entire day and cleaning and, church. But yeah, so that was how my life's been. And so, yeah, after I'm done recording this, have to get to school and eat breakfast, and yeah, so I'm gonna go do all of that. I hope you all enjoy and have a wonderful day. My voice is killing me, so bye!